Hey y'all, I had some extra time today, so I thought I would make a video about my whole autism journey. Found out my daughter was autistic when she was about in the 5th grade. And with that, eventually I got to a place where I realized I am too. She did so many things that I could relate to. So if you're thinking, maybe this is you or something, I'm just gonna do a story time here of how it was for me growing up and things that were different about me that I always wondered, why am I so different? I guess you could say I was quite high masking because I learned very quickly I had to be just to get along. And even with that, I still didn't get along very well. School for me was a major problem. In elementary, I was bullied quite a bit. I was very chunky as a kid. So I got called all the fat names and all that stuff. But I was just never popular. And on my report card, they would say I was a daydreamer or that I talked too much. I was a daydreamer. The teacher would be talking and I would just be staring out the window, just daydreaming away. But I was very smart. I didn't understand why the other kids had to study for so long. I mean, I could just glance at something and I could just do the answers real quick, and I just, it was the easiest thing in the world to me. So I didn't understand why the other kids had such a hard time. They would take so long with their tests and so long with doing what to me was just a basic task. So yeah, I had that going on, and there was one thing though. It seemed like I was easily confused. I was very smart, but I was easily confused with details. And I always wanted to get all the little details right. I was very worried about everything all the time. So if the teacher says, if there's a project or something that has several steps to it, I would want her to write down everything that needed to be done. She would just say it real quick, and I'm thinking, no, can you just write it down? And that's another theme that's been steady in my life. I prefer things written down so I can keep up with it. If you just if I stop somewhere for directions. Okay, so I'm actually autistic and ADHD. Hold on, my cat's looking like he's looking for somewhere to go to the bathroom. Oh no. Okay, no, he's just chilling. Okay, sorry. So yeah, I don't do well with spoken directions. I need you to write it down so that I can remember things step by step. What else? I know when it was time to go out for recess, that was overwhelming for me because I just remember I wanted to hang around the adults because the children to me would act like wild animals. I would go to the bus stop and my mom was nice enough to let me sit in the car until the bus came because I would look out there at the children waiting on the bus. And they would be jumping all around, climbing on top of the stop sign, just acting like maniacs. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with these kids? Why do they act like that? They're so loud and obnoxious. And the bus ride was just pure torture. I mean, pure torture. I mean, these kids just acted crazy, and I didn't understand why they were acting like that. Hitting each other on the head, cussing each other out. I mean, this is in elementary school. I mean, it was already rough. So that was really, really bad. I just hated school so much. And it's so sad because I loved learning. It's not that I didn't like learning. I loved school, to learn. But it was the people that made it miserable for me. And I was very quiet and sensitive. And whenever I would try to express myself to a teacher and say, oh, I'm having a problem with this or that, they would tell me not to tattletale. So school was just so hard for me for so long. In recess, I didn't really have any friends, so I would just try to make myself small and like hide somewhere during recess. I would beg to stay inside so that I could just read a book. I'd much rather just read a book. And another thing I didn't understand was sports. I did not understand sports. I'm thinking, what is the purpose of this? You have a ball, you're going to kick it back and forth, and nothing's accomplished with this. Like, I didn't understand the purpose of like sports. I kind of understood like a swimming class or something because I thought, okay, that's like enjoyable, it's exercise, but any kind of like a game like sports, like a football or a baseball, I just was not interested in it. So yeah, I hated recess because I didn't want to go outside with the mean children. And so I would try to make myself like disappear, and it was like there was nowhere where I could be safe at school. If I tried to hide under like the bleachers and just be safe, the teachers would come and find me and they'd be like, now go play, go be social, go play. And I would try to go play. And like the kids didn't want to play with me, and I didn't want to play with them because they didn't want to play with me, and they were not nice. There was this one boy that used to follow me around and chase me and tell me if he caught me, he was going to cut things off of me, if you know what I mean, as a female. Okay. And this was in elementary school. So I would be like, hey, so-and-so said they're going to do this. And the teacher would be like, stop tattletelling. And I was genuinely afraid at that time. I mean, I'm a little girl who was being chased by a boy that's telling me he's going to cut my female woman parts off. Yeah, so I would like stand by the teachers to try to like get some kind of refuge from this crazy kid, and they would shoo me away. They'd be like, you can't stand over here with us adults the whole time, you have to go play. So I dreaded every day at recess. It was torture. And things actually worse than that happened in elementary school, but I'm not gonna go into that in this video, but let's just say it was terrible. And yeah, so that started me knowing that I was different, really, was going to school. I was also different than my sister. She's older than me, and to me, she just didn't seem very sensitive. I would get called, she would call me a crybaby a lot, and I know there's, siblings do this to each other and stuff, but yeah, I was very sensitive, and if someone looked at me the wrong way, it just made me want to cry. I was just so sensitive to people's feelings and to my own feelings, and I learned very quickly that we've got to hide our feelings, and we shouldn't cry because crying makes people uncomfortable, and people think that you're weak when you cry. My sister would call me a crybaby quite often. So then I learned to just push all your sensitive feelings down, never cry. And then I learned how to mask myself so I could get along in school without being bothered. Elementary school was tough. By the time I got to middle school, I still didn't know what to do in 6th grade. But in 6th grade, I kind of learned finally what to do. So I remember I was in 6th grade and I was wearing what the kids called bobos. These were like generic, just, I don't know, shoes you get at Walmart or wherever. I grew up we were poor. I didn't realize how poor we were until I got older, but yeah, we were like poverty poor. So I remember being in the 6th grade, and I was getting joked for my shoes because they weren't like Reeboks or Nikes or something. That was the big 2 brands when I was going to school, Reeboks and Nikes. And I very quickly learned, wait a minute, is that all it takes? Is that all I got to do to not be bothered anymore? Is just wear a shoe with a name on it, and then I'll be accepted, and then nobody will bother me? So that's what I did. I mean, I didn't want to because I used to dress in like these extravagant clothes. I loved Prince, the singer Prince, rest his soul. I would wear white ruffly shirts and a lot of purple velvet, and I was wearing the platforms before they were in style. I got joked to death for the platforms. So I said, okay, well, I can't dress how I want to dress anymore, so I guess you could say I sold out. I sold out so I wouldn't be bothered in school. Yeah, school sucked a lot for me. So yeah, I just knew I was different, and other people, they just kind of got it that these are the rules of the game. You dress like this, you say this, you act like that, and that's just what you do. And that just never made sense to me, I guess. There's a lot more to it than that, but those are just a couple things I remember growing up, and now realizing that I'm I can't even talk, autistic after all these years, it just makes a lot of things make sense. I remember being so overwhelmed that when I came home from school, I would want to sleep the whole time. I mean, other kids wanted to go and run the streets and go do this and go do that. Eventually, I got to run in the streets too, but I mean, that was more out of necessity at the time. But, yeah, I just wanted to take a nap. I just wanted to be left alone and take a nap. I mean, like, it almost got to be a joke. Like, people would call and they'd be like, are you in the bed? And I'd be like, yeah, because I would be so burnt out just for making it through the school day. And the other kids would be like, hey, what are you doing after school? And I'm thinking, after school? Like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. I'm making it through the day and that's it. What are you talking about after school? Like, I couldn't relate. And then when I got older, I realized the same thing. I had a job at Shoney's. I got one of my first jobs at Shoney's. And I was always very nervous about working the cash register because this was another thing I had going on. And there's a word for this with autism. I forgot what it's called, but I don't like being perceived. I don't like being like looked at. It makes me very nervous. Like, so anything where someone's looking at me while I'm trying to perform a task, I couldn't do it. So anything that involved like a cashier or a cash register, like I couldn't do it. Now, I tried to do it at Shoney's. I remember, of course, I could count money and all that stuff, but I couldn't do it with someone looking at me and waiting on me. So I remember I was working at Shoney's and there was a man paying his bill, and plus with the cash register you had to do everything in a certain way or everything would come out wrong. It's different if I just said this is this and he gave me the money, I'd give him the money back. But with the cash register you have to press this button. That creates a whole nother level of anxiety. So I think he ended up calling me stupid or retarded or something, and I was just like, that's it. I never want to have a job like this ever again. So I quit that job. And so it went on that I have had a lifetime of struggling to have like a regular job per se, because I get very overwhelmed very easily. I get very just burnt out so quick. I mean, if it's not something where I'm behind the scenes or like if I have to deal with a lot of people one after the other, I cannot keep up with that. And I certainly can't do something where somebody's going to be like looking at me the whole time. And it's very nuanced. Like, there is some things that I can do that people are watching me, but it's certainly not like anything with money exchange or if I have to do any math, I can't do it with someone looking at me. And I'm also like that, like with being perceived, like when I'm driving in a car, like it really bothers me if I am trying to eat my food and I park in a little parking spot and someone pulls up right next to me. Like, I go out of my way to park way far away in a parking lot so I won't be bothered, and they choose to park right next to me, I'll start my car up and just drive somewhere else. What else? If I go to an ATM, and someone pulls behind me, I will actually do a circle around and go again. It's just because I can't stand someone like waiting on me, like watching every move that I make. And it's not just a security thing. The ATM is just like that with anything. If I'm driving in my car, and you know how sometimes there'll be a street, you can make a left or a right, but if you're making a left, there's cars coming this way, so you have to wait longer to make a left. Or you could just make a right and then make a U-turn. I'll just make a right and make a U-turn, because if I have a car behind me, I can't stand them. Anything where you have to go into like anything where you're on the spot is what I like to call it. Like if you go in a Subway or if you go in a Chipotle and you have to tell them what you want right then and there, that makes me very anxious. I don't like being put on the spot. I feel like I have to be prepared for everything. And that is really disabling, because things come up all the time that you can't be prepared for, and that will really throw me off. If I'm in a grocery store and I see someone that knows me and they come up to me and say hi, that will throw me off so bad because I'm not prepared to see them. Sometimes that could make me just want to leave my groceries there and come back another day because it's so overwhelming for me. If people come and knock on my door and don't let me know they're coming, that'll do it for me. There's a lot of things. I'm just I have to be like prepared for everything. I don't like a routine being switched up. You know, if you tell me we're going to like a party or something, and you know, I think that we're going at 5 and then you switch up the time on me, it's very stressful to me. I can't roll with the punches. I'm kind of rigid, you know. I can't, because in my mind I'm prepared for this time. I'm mentally prepared for that time. So I can't just roll with the punches. And if I'm forced to, it's like I can, and people around me probably won't even notice that it's bothered me so bad. So I play it off really well, but they don't know the recovery that I have to go through for that little spontaneous thing. So say I get invited to a barbecue or something, and I've got it in my head what time I'm leaving. And say the person calls me and is like, oh, can you pick up a pack of ice on your way here? I'll tell them, yeah, sure. And I don't like mind picking up the ice. It's just the fact that I feel like now I'm put on the spot because everything's messed up, because the time frame's wrong, and now I'm going to have to do everything out of this time slot, and it just really messes me up. Like to the point to where it could be enough for me to be like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to make it, my stomach's hurting, or I would make up some excuse not to go because I can't handle that switch up. I can't handle that little bit of I wasn't prepared to get the ice. So like in my head, I give myself the exact amount of time to do everything in a way that I know I can handle. So by having to get this ice, that's going to mess up my time frame, and I can't redo it, and everything's messed up. I don't know how to describe it. This is just how I am. I'm just kind of different like that, and it's exhausting hiding all this stuff, y'all, because you're embarrassed, right? You can't. It sounds crazy, you know. You can't tell somebody, you know what, I can't even come to your cookout now. Thanks for inviting me. That was very nice of you, but I can't even come now because you've messed my whole day up because you want me to pick up some ice. Like, that sounds crazy. You can't tell people that. And you look rude, too. And that's another thing. I can't stand for people to be mad at me, and I can't stand to come across as rude or, like, hurt anybody's feelings or offend anybody. So it's just exhausting trying to keep up with, I don't want to be rude, but also I don't, I have to do things in a way that I know I can handle, you know. So, yeah, it's just very exhausting, always masking these little things about me that I think a lot of people that think that they know me very well, they don't realize. They don't realize how different I am, you know, because I hide it so well. It is exhausting, and you know, my child's autistic and ADHD as well, so sometimes I feel like the blind leading the blind, but I'm doing the best I can, you know. I try to force myself to be a little bit more social because I know that we all need to be social enough at least to get by in the world, you know? And the older I get, the more I do feel like I want to connect and meet more people and have friends. I'm trying to express myself in ways that feel safe to me. And I'm hoping that I can have some friends out here, you know, online, because it's easier for me to like talk to my camera like this than talking to somebody in person sometimes. So I guess in a way, this is kind of like my accountability. This is my therapy a little bit, you know, putting this out there in the world. If there's anybody out there like me, please comment if you can relate to any of these things. But people have no idea how much I struggle with just how I am on a day-to-day basis. It's very, very exhausting to feel like you're pretending to fit in. I try to be authentic, you know, but I think I do mirror people a lot more than... I almost don't even want to share my opinions with things. I just let people share their opinions, because if they don't agree with me, I don't have the energy to debate. I just don't. So I just, you know, whatever they say, I'm just like, yeah, I like to listen a lot. I don't like to... I trust very few people with my opinion. I just don't. Because the more you share, it seems like the more they can use information against you. Or they'll just go back and forth, and I just don't have the energy to do that. So it would be nice and great to share my thoughts about things. But in my experience, it seems like whenever I am 100% like honest about something, I get a lot of resistance to that. So there is you know, a couple people I can be mostly honest with, but for the most part, it's hard to, you know, when you're a kid, they say just be yourself. Well, nobody ever told me how hard it is to be yourself, because sometimes when you feel like if you're yourself, nobody will accept you. And in this world, we need people to get by. It's hard. So I am trying to learn how to have the courage to be myself. And it takes a lot of courage, because it sure is easier just to go along to get along. I mean, I did that in school, and I went along to get along. And then I finally made it out. Now I'm an adult, and I'm like, now I don't have to fit in with anybody. Now I can be authentic, so I can gather my tribe. I want people that are like me around me. You know, I want to communicate with other people that are like me. But if I just keep being a blank face and not expressing myself and not putting myself out there, I will attract no tribe. And I don't want that. So yeah, I just thought I would share this video about a couple things, you know, growing up, and, you know, the autism and the ADHD. And the ADHD is a whole nother monster in itself, because on top of the other things, you know, keeping focused and getting things done, you feel like you're spinning your wheels sometimes. And I mean, my ADHD wasn't treated so much of my adult life. I mean, here I am in my 40s finally, you know. It's being treated now, but I mean, for a long time it wasn't. And then I feel sorry for the life that maybe I could have had if it was treated earlier. I mean, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I wasted so many years. Like, who knows what I could have been, what I could have done if that would have been helped earlier in my life. But there's no use in crying over spilt milk. So I'm just trying to do the best that I can now. And yeah, that's all I can do. So anyway, I won't blabber on any longer, but if anybody else can relate to any of this, please let me know. Is there any other moms out there, especially moms, anybody, but really especially moms, that can relate to anything I've said. Let me know I'm not alone. All right, y'all. I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, all the things. And I love you.